what if scenarios, and the psychological traps of money that most people fall into, expanding on the core principles with much more detail. You can think of this as the deep dive half of your video that takes the abstract concepts from the first 3 minutes and turns them into a concrete, step-by-step reality for the listener. Imagine a person who earns a high salary but lives paycheck to paycheck because they are stuck in the lifestyle creep cycle, where every raise is immediately met by a new car payment or a bigger apartment, effectively keeping their net worth at zero despite their high income. We need to expand on the concept of the silent tax by explaining that inflation isn't just a number on the news, it is a fundamental devaluation of your life's work. If that work is stored in cash, effectively forcing you to run on a treadmill that moves faster every year. To really stretch this narrative, we should look at the compound interest pillar not just as a math formula, but as a test of human patience, comparing the journey of a disciplined investor to a gardener planting a fruit tree that takes years to bear fruit, but eventually provides shade and food for a lifetime without further effort. We can spend several minutes breaking down the good debt versus bad debt debate by walking through the specific math of a mortgage versus a credit card balance, showing how one builds equity while the other builds a prison, and explaining the tax gap through the lens of a hidden partner in your business, the government, who takes a smaller cut if you simply follow the pre-approved rules they've laid out for retirement accounts. By adding these layers of context, detailed analogies about the consumerism trap, and specific instructions on how to audit one's own bank statements for wealth leaks, the word count will naturally expand to fill the remaining time. You should speak slowly and emphasize the aha moments, such as when you realize that your bank is actually using your savings to invest in the very assets you should be buying yourself, effectively profiting off your lack of financial education. The secondary part of the script focuses on the how and the why, turning the 6 pillars from a list into a philosophy of life that ensures the listener feels fully equipped to handle the fast-paced modern economy without the fear of being left behind. By the time you reach the end of this section, the audience should feel a sense of urgency, not because they are panicked, but because they finally see the invisible levers of wealth that have been hidden in plain sight. The true reason most people fail to build wealth isn't a lack of opportunity, but a lack of structural discipline in a world designed to keep you spending. So we must dive deeper into the psychological warfare of modern consumerism and how it directly attacks your ability to hold on to the value you create. Think about the last time you felt the need to upgrade your phone or buy a new outfit just because an algorithm told you it was on sale. That moment was a direct assault on your net worth. And until you view every dollar as a soldier in your personal army, you will continue to lose the war of financial independence. To truly conquer the first pillar of the silent tax, you have to realize that inflation is not just a headline on the news. It is the government and the global economy slowly eroding the hours of your life you spent earning that money, which is why keeping your wealth in a safe, traditional savings account is actually the riskiest move you can make. If you want to stop the bleeding, you must transition from a consumer mindset to an owner mindset, recognizing that the brands you buy from are getting rich off your desire for temporary status while you remain stuck on the treadmill of high-income poverty. This brings us back to the vital importance of the 2-gear system of saving and investing, where you must treat your emergency fund like a fire extinguisher, always there, never used for fun, and your investment portfolio like an orchard that you are forbidden from harvesting until the trees are fully grown and heavy with fruit. Imagine the difference between a person who buys a $50,000 car on a 7% interest loan versus the person who invests that same monthly payment into a diversified index fund. Over 10 years, the driver has a rusted piece of metal worth half what they paid, while the investor has a six-figure engine of freedom that generates passive income every single month without them lifting a finger. We must also address the eighth wonder of compounding with more urgency, because the cost of waiting is the most expensive mistake you will ever make. Waiting just 5 years to start can result in a loss of hundreds of thousands of dollars in your later years, meaning every day you think about it is a day you are actively burning your future wealth. You have to stop looking at your salary as your wealth and start looking at it as your raw material, because your net worth is the only scoreboard that matters at the end of the day. And if your scoreboard shows a big house and a fancy watch but zero liquid assets, you are essentially a high-paid slave to your own lifestyle. This leads us to the critical management of debt, where you must become a surgeon, cutting away the cancer of high-interest consumer debt with aggressive repayment strategies while carefully using good debt, like a scalpel, to carve out new opportunities in real estate or business. You need to understand that the wealthy use debt as a bridge to reach higher ground, while the poor use it as a shovel to dig themselves deeper into a hole they can never climb out of. As you bridge the tax gap, stop viewing taxes as an unavoidable tragedy and start viewing them as a set of rules in a game. The government actually wants you to invest in your retirement and start businesses because it helps the economy, which is why they provide the very loopholes you've been ignoring. By maximizing your contributions to tax-protected accounts and understanding how to write off legitimate business expenses, you are effectively giving yourself a 20% to 30% raise without having to ask a boss for a single penny. You are living in a fast-paced world where the gap between the informed and the uninformed is widening every single day, and the only way to bridge that gap is to stop being a spectator in your own financial life and start being the architect. This means conducting a financial audit of your life every month, looking at every subscription, every impulse buy, and every missed investment opportunity, not with guilt, but with the cold, hard logic of a CEO running a multi-million-dollar corporation. You are the CEO of You Inc. And if your company is consistently spending more than it earns or failing to invest in its own growth, that company is headed for bankruptcy regardless of how high the revenue looks. The final pillar of wealth isn't found in a spreadsheet or a stock ticker. It is found in the quiet confidence of knowing that your money is working harder for you than you are working for it, allowing you to reclaim the one thing money can actually buy: your time. Time is the only non-renewable resource you have. And the entire goal of mastering these 6 pillars is to buy back your hours, your days, and your years so that you can spend them on what truly matters: family, passion, and purpose, rather than being forced to sell your soul for a paycheck until the day you die. This roadmap is your exit strategy from the rat race. And while the world will continue to move fast and try to distract you with shiny objects, you will remain grounded in these fundamental principles, moving steadily toward a level of freedom that most people will only ever dream of, but never actually achieve. Stand firm in your commitment to these pillars. Ignore the noise of the get-rich-quick crowd And remember that real wealth is a marathon of consistency, not a sprint of luck. And by the time you reach the finish line, you won't just have a high net worth, you will have a life of total autonomy.